Slay Radio number 1.
since 1999, maybe.
Well, we're back again. CRX 2025. I'm gonna get my compadres in here. Let's see. Oh, here we are. Yuri.
How's it going?
Yeah. Okay.
Lee in here as well, or did Lee just click this one thinking the Zoom is the one to join into?
Maybe I'm not sure. You can.
I'm
Hey,
in here.
Lee. Yeah, you
How
pop
are you?
in too, Lee.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
You can kick me out.
Okay. Well, we're back for you. This
Yeah,
is year 9 of CRX and year too many of the virtual part, I think, really.
yeah, we beat the live one.
We did.
It's become such a tradition now. We can actually no longer stop. Even if we go back to a live one, we still have to do this one. So somehow, it's going to be twice the work, no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll have to have a virtual component if we go back live. I'm hoping we can go back to live because, we kind of need to, you know.
That'd be cool. That'd be
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Be cool. But we reach a pretty good global audience this way as well, right?
True. Yeah, it's true. So we're back, and I guess we should just start out with really the elephant in the room. Since this is a Commodore event, really.
Which
You
is
know,
that? What, the schedule or what?
well, we got a big schedule. I guess we could do schedule first if you wanted to.
I think we should do it. I let
All
people.
right, let's do the schedule first, and then we can talk about the elephant in the room. Okay,
We
so
got a packed schedule, right? We got a packed schedule this year.
yep.
Huge.
So if we go to www.crxevent.com, you can pop up the website, and we have links to the schedule, to our Discord, and to the YouTube channel where this is being fed live. So if you're watching this live, you probably already know where that is. And then you can click on our schedule, and you can take a look at day one, which is a short day always for us. And we've got a lot of setup. And then
Yep.
we've got us. And then we have me. I'm going to talk about my journey with Commodores. And then we'll have Travis Sensorium for the Teensy Rum update. And then we have the party of all parties
Yep.
with Saj, with Bitscape.
Saj and Bitscape. Oh my goodness, he's outdone himself, and the artists have outdone themselves as well. This is crazy. Two
Yes.
2 days completely packed to the brim.
18 artists,
It's crazy.
Huge show.
including this guy right here.
Yeah, Lee. Lee's going to be in there as well.
Yeah. I'm
That's
amongst
fantastic.
amongst some amazing people.
It's going to be a very, very cool event.
So then we roll off to day number 2. And we start at 10 o'clock in the morning, your time, Yuri.
Yep.
I get to sleep in an extra hour because I'm in Arizona.
You're so lucky, and for those people in Europe, it's 7 p.m. Your time. So Europe
Yeah.
7 p.m., California 10 a.m.
So we're going to start off with us chatting about what happened overnight, and hopefully nothing major. And then we're going to have Zarko.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that. Zarko has got a treat special for us. He's been working on something very cool. I'm very eager to see what he's going to bring to us, and there may even be something released as part of it.
Really? Oh, well, that'll be nice.
So
And
that'd
then
be cool.
after we have Zarko, we're going to be chilling with Lee. So
You're going to be chilling with Lee.
Lee.
Oh my goodness, Lee! Since we don't have a set with you, we can talk about anything.
It's true.
Yes, we can talk. We can talk about whatever you like.
That is going to be so cool. So for
Yeah.
those sneak preview, of course, you should read the little intro that Lee did on himself already. But he's covered a career of multiple decades, all connected to the machine we love and the pastime entertainment that we get involved in. And
Yes.
it's going to be a bit of an AMA session. Ask me anything, Lee.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Okay.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Be prepared.
We'll keep it nice and clean.
No, go hard.
So then we're going to take a lunch break after that because we're all going to be hungry, I'm sure.
Right.
And then after that, we have Stephanie coming back, Stephanie Allaire, and she's got a big announcement. She announced, on the 11th, I think, maybe?
Yeah.
A few days ago, that she's kind of splitting her company into 2 entities.
Right.
And she's going to focus on her love, and the other part's going to another company that loves it or something like. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah,
That's why I
no,
wanna
it's gonna be
talk to her.
it's gonna be so cool. It reminded me a little bit of the console wars, 8-bit versus 16-bit. But we get to learn a lot more about that and how she came to that decision and what's gonna be next. Always a treat, Stephanie. Yeah, she is full of stories, and she's probably one of the most talented people one will ever come across in their life.
Yes, definitely. So after that, we are all going to try an experiment. So AI is part of our lives, whether we like it or not. And I've actually been using AI quite a bit. Well, you have too, Yuri, in different capacities as well. But I've been using it for some programming stuff, some really high-end assembly code, and just basically for testing ideas and routines. And I'm pretty much astounded that ChatGPT 5 is insanely accurate. It used to be horrible. I mean, back in, when it first started, when it was like 2.0, whatever, I tell it to do some kind of a routine to draw data or whatever, and it was completely wrong. But now it actually is a viable solution for a lot of stuff. So what we want to do, we want to give it a whirl, and we're going to try to write some real basic Commodore 64 program. Maybe something, I don't know, we'll probably find something from Discord, somebody that's watching that can, say, hey, make this type of thing. And
Yeah,
we'll go,
yeah.
okay,
It's
okay,
gonna be either horribly right, horribly wrong, or just horribly different. But it's gonna be
right, right.
something.
So I think
And
I like to start with something simple, like,
I would,
maybe
I
a
like it.
loop. A
I
loop
like it.
program, maybe it's like Hello World or something like that. Go, okay, did that, and then maybe move on to something where we do. I'm kind of curious if it'll do bitmap graphics, if it'll do
Yeah.
like raster interrupt routines. I'm curious to see exactly how far we can go
God,
with.
God knows. And if
Get it to
and
hallucinate
whatever
some
comes out of it,
sprites.
we can then start comparing outcomes. Maybe next year we'll do a repeat and we'll see if AI has gotten any better. The good news is the ancient knowledge that is represented by many of us that love the Commodore 64. While it can be simulated by AI, those memories, those
Yeah,
core memories that it has built, it will never be able to replace. So it's all in good fun, whether you are pro AI, against AI, or don't even know what AI is. Wherever you've been living, that's going to be a fun. It's going to be a fun exercise.
yeah,
I'm
true.
looking forward to that, and I'm maybe I'll be accepting some bets here and there. Hit me
I got
up
a
on
get a
Discord.
poll going on the Discord and see what we can pull off.
Yeah,
Okay, so when we do
Did
that, we have Dan Sanderson with Mega 65 and more. He has a whole bunch of stuff he wants to chat about. It's gonna be like chilling with Dan,
yeah.
pretty
It
much.
was. It's so funny. Last night we were kind of testing out the Zoom connection to make
Mm.
sure that nothing much had changed from the way we had set it up last year. It turned out, I think after 3 hours, Dan and I finally clocked off and said, "Well, I think we've done enough testing of the Zoom. We're
It
gonna,"
worked.
and we still had many topics left. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well.
So when that's done with Dan, we wrap up the day for us, and then the other half of the mega party with Saj, the other 9 artists that are going to be talking or presenting and doing music live and such, that kicks off, and it's I don't
It's
understand how
crazy.
Saj.
Have you just looked even just at the global representation of that, like
Yeah,
ranging from
it's
Australia
Greece and
from Australia
Australia.
all the way out to
Yeah,
Texas and Greece. It's like,
yeah.
and anything in between. It's very, very cool.
Now we have to say, because we've known Saj forever, right?
Yeah.
This is the first time, and you can vouch for this. This is the first time in the history of Saj that he's done ahead of all of us.
All of us.
Yeah,
I felt
very
embarrassed.
organized.
Here we've got a DJ, MC, and party organizer that is renowned to be the very last second of the very last minute. And here he is. I think it was 2 days early, and he was done. He was like,
done. Yeah,
it's fantastic. I'm very, very impressed. I'm very
yeah,
and thanks to all the great artists as well
oh
that
yeah,
played ball and were able to send in their pieces of art early as well. That's fantastic.
yeah. So if you take a look on our schedule, we have the list of the presenters, or not present, sorry, the artists for Bitscape, and the countries they're from. And so that's the actual order you'll see them in the presentation. So if you're interested in seeing somebody in particular, the times aren't quite correct because I think the first day is 6.5 hours long, and the second day is 6 hours and 46 minutes. It's forever long, but it's 100% chip tunes,
Yeah,
interviews with people,
yeah.
some really interesting interviews with people that I got to see some of the stuff. But so all great artists. Some are coming back from last year. Some are new. We even have a couple of people that we snuck in. No, Saj snuck in that aren't Commodore specific. One guy does Atari 2600 is his chiptune generator, and the other one
Fantastic.
is TRS 80, Radio Shack TRS 80. So that'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see how that all pans
The
out.
shots of those machines look amazing, all set
Yeah.
up.
Bleep and blob.
Yeah.
So after that day, then we start the next day, last day, Sunday, with us yakking about all the great things that happened overnight again. And then we're going to review our favorite new retro hardware. We really hadn't done anything set up for this, But I got a whole bunch of things that I had found that are new that since last year, especially recent times, especially for like the Amiga. Like there's
Oh yeah, there's so
flamethrowers
much
and
to discuss, you know.
yeah,
And I went to AMI West. What was it, last week or the week
yeah,
before last? Saw a lot of cool things there as well. There's a lot of open source projects that got added as well. There's so much. It's a busy time. A lot of people doing cool stuff, so that's great. And hopefully other people are, you know, in the Discord suggesting some things that they've come across that they're enthusiastic about,
sure,
and we'll try and pick those up as well. We want to try and reach a large audience with things that they're interested in.
right, right.
Fantastic.
So after we get done yakking, we're gonna have Marco. So Marco
Yay, the
came, he's from
other
the back.
half of the dynamic duo.
Yeah. So Marco was the guy that did the hardware project for us for the Commodore,
Cartridge, the Commodore cartridge, the
yeah,
one
the
meg
cartridge that we
cartridge.
did. What do we
Yeah,
call that thing? I don't remember what we called it.
the
Multi-select
Office
cartridge or
desk Office, the multi menu. It was such a
yeah.
great collaboration. The one meg cartridge.
And so
I
that was
still
a
use
neat
it.
hardware project because we actually had that as a build project where people
Right.
could order it ahead of time and they bought it. I shipped them out and then we all built them together online. And that was early on in our COVID
Yeah.
problems. And that was a great project.
Yeah.
So Marco, just out of the blue, said, "Look what I did." And then, of course, all of us are like, "Aha, that's a CRX presentation
Yeah.
for sure."
Yeah.
So Marco made a board for the stock power supply that replaces the guts of it, leaves the
Yep.
transformer, and then makes it so it's, something you can actually use, reliable. It won't kill your 64. And so he
Super
has a
cool.
GitHub with all the files and stuff. And so he's going to go through the whole build process. And so that'll be a lot of fun. He's always a lot of fun to hang out
Yeah.
with anyway.
Yeah. Fantastic. And again, a beautiful open source project indeed.
Yeah,
So that's
great
going to be
project.
very cool.
And then we've got Jim Happel. So who has been when Jim gets on a project, it is like focused until it's done. And
Yep.
so Jim's made Meshtastic 64. So if you're familiar with what Meshtastic is, it's a mesh networking system for long-range communications. And it's used primarily with ESP32. They can do with some NRF CPUs as well. But Jim built this on an ESP32, and he interfaced it into the user port. And so you could actually send, receive messages to anybody else on the Meshtastic network. And so where Jim lives in Chicago, there's a ton of people on this. So you can actually talk to people 364 that might be on their phone, might be on, another computer, whatever. But it's long range. So theoretically, the range is, I forgot how many kilometers they said, 25 kilometers, like that.
Yeah,
For
something like that. You can
pretty
be
far.
you could be a node as well in it, so it
Yeah,
can help
so
expand the global reach.
yeah, so because in mesh network, basically it does the hops, it'll go out as far as the network goes. So you could have somebody a really long ways away if you had enough people in between to,
Yes.
to join the link. So he's
Yeah.
going to talk about that project. He had a bunch of them that had available at the VCF Midwest, and he did all kinds of demos. It was a lot of fun to see that. I have one here that I got from him, so I'm going to have to hook it up. Unfortunately, in my city, I am the only one. So I have it running periodically just to see, like, nope, there's nobody there.
No one
So
yet. No
I
one
can
yet.
talk to myself. I got another one, so I can,
Right. Right.
help
I think it'll take off. It's a very cool system.
It is
It is
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Yeah,
And
I'm looking
then-
forward to that one. And it's again just it's a fun way. What I always like with Jim, he comes up with these little projects that just make a lot of sense. It's like, oh yeah, why has no one ever thought of that? And I really do like that. And he's very diligent at actually making it work. And even the whole coding around it is fun with using BASIC and all that. But we'll let him talk about that. And that's going to be kind of a bit at the end of the show. Are we going to try and create some time for people to hang out? Or where are we
last.
at?
Actually,
we got
I
more.
don't know if you got the updated schedule. So I'm going to be talking about what I'm going to be producing for 2026.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
And then after that, we're done.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, packed schedule.
Yeah.
That is
Awesome.
packed schedule.
Yep.
So that's fantastic. So I guess we're going to hand it over to you. You're going to
Well, no,
do
we got a few
similar as
minutes.
what
We
we
got to
did.
talk. We got what, 10 minutes or so. We got to
Oh,
talk
we do?
about the elephant in the room, man. We got to.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
So the reality is this. since last year, um, we have what? New president in office, and oh yeah, and Commodore's back.
Right.
So, which is fantastic news for everybody that knows about Commodore and knows about the history of Commodore. Group led by Parafractic, which is a YouTube guy. Um, got people together, got funding, got everything done, and Commodore's back and producing new machines. And there's a bunch of people involved in that project. And when we were at VCF Midwest, the new COO of Commodore was there, and we got to meet him.
Oh.
And I've been talking with him in the background for a while, but it's nice to meet with him. Good guy. Had a lot of fun there. Probably a little bit of an eye opener for him because he was with Motorola before and not doing retro stuff like this. So it's quite a bit different for him. So it was interesting for him to see how all the stuff works. And yeah, it's just one of those things that it's kind of hard to believe, right? I mean, who would ever guessed in a million years that that would happen? I mean, I'd be more inclined to believe that Radio Shack would come back, right? Because
I hear
that's
you. It's amazing,
Yeah.
and you know what's fun about it is, of course, if you look at the sales numbers. I just pulled up the tracker real quick.
Oh.
12,000 units. 12,000 units
12,000.
already
Yeah.
sold. So that is
yeah.
that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
That's
And,
quite amazing how so many people that either own 1, 2, 3, 500 of them already are
Look around
are
me.
adding to this. 12,000 more coming into rotation, which is good. Which is good for everybody. If you
Yeah.
just even we just spoke about new products being created, people coding for this environment, people revisiting old times, maybe people that haven't coded for the past 30 years on these machines, but thanks to the machine became a professional coder or hardware developer or something completely different, and now are revisiting these machines. I think it's going to give a huge boost to the overall community, which is obviously very, very cool.
Yeah. So the new machine's great. Obviously, I'm involved doing the keyboard stuff, and I've been working with Gideon for a long time now, and helping him test code and such, and doing our hardware interface for the keyboard and the computer. So we've been playing with him for months and months and months now, and yeah, it's fantastic hardware. I mean, it's
It's cool.
modern. I mean, I can't say anything. It's like
No, you can't.
it
But
is what it should
it's
be,
going to be
right?
worth the wait.
Yeah, it definitely worked away. It is what it should be. And
Yeah.
there's been no money, how should I put this? It doesn't matter what it costs to make. The goal was to make a user experience that everybody would love. And so the pricing for the computer is really cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at all the parts that go into it
Yeah,
and
it's
you add
a
all
very
together,
competitively
yeah,
priced
it's so
unit. Yeah.
competitively.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, the whole goal is all about the user experience. No matter
Yeah.
what happens in production parts or anything that happens, it's all about user experience.
Right.
And Parafractic has delivered 100% on that. There's no doubt about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great user experience. The amount of work that Gideon put in for just little details here and there, it's just amazing. And I'm proud to be part of the project for sure. But I'm impressed about how the whole thing has come out. People are real
It's going to be
skeptical.
soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be so.
Yeah.
People are skeptical about everything in life,
That's
But I'm
okay.
telling you
And
that.
come on, I think there's 12,000 people that have put their money
Yeah,
into this
I
now,
agree.
and they're going to be very, very
I think
happy.
Oh, they're gonna be thrilled.
I think seems to be so much quality of thinking and work already gone into it long before it's come under the Commodore banner.
Right.
That when people get their hands on it and see what it can do and
Right.
Yeah. So
gather around it, it's going to be quite special, I think.
I will say that there has been a lot more thinking and such since Commodore has had, they're
Yes.
putting it together. Because we had individual parts and then put them together, and there's a lot of vision that Parafractic had, and it got put into the product, and it just, I'm kind of giddy in a way because I know how close everything is to getting out to people's hands, and people see it, they're gonna go, Finally, because this is something that should have been released, really. You know, if we could have released it back in the day, this would have been the next step for the 64
Right.
part.
I think you bring up a good point there. Eh? When the Commodore 64 came out, it invoked a certain like, wow, that we live in a time where we can do this.
Right. I had the
And
same
all
feeling.
that
Yeah.
enthusiasm, and that obviously many of us buyers are a little bit older now. We're maybe used to a little bit more of a modern world and all of that. But to invoke that same feeling combined with the nostalgia, I think is fantastic. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun with this, and I'm most excited about those people that aren't adding it to their already massive collection. I'm enthusiastic about those people that kind of get reintroduced to this machine and going to pick up where they left off, because those people are going to come up with all kinds of new cool ideas, gadgets, or other uses that are going to bring like a new wave of happiness to this ancient platform that's still holding strong. And I'm very, very pleased about that. So
you know what's funny is that to me the thing that has happened is that it doesn't feel ancient anymore. And I don't know if it's because I'm working with it all the time or because it's that much better. But either way, when you put your hands on one of them, you're going to go, okay, I get
yeah,
it. I understand, why they've done this. Because a lot of people have been critical of, why would you make the same kind of machine and yada yada yada. And I could see that
to
point.
me, that is part of the whole thing as well. I like that. I remember growing up with a Commodore, and then I had some people that had the Spectrum. Oh, those poor kids. And or there were others that had an Atari. Oh, those poor kids. And then you had the real bad ones that had an MSX a little bit later. That was like you're toast. Like you had no friends left. But it was an interesting dialogue, because you're competing on this, and why is this and that. And kind of like that, a machine like this still evokes that heavy of an emotion. I find it's kind of cool as well, because that will also invoke people trying to show off who's better and all of that. And that's kind of like the whole demo scene was based on that, and still is today, showing off who's best.
That whole back catalog.
Exactly, and if you look at the demos that have been produced in the past few years, and people revisiting old games, I love the work that David Yout, Crypto Boy, has been doing on analyzing some of this old code, finding the old software engineers, these old kids. These used to be kids that wrote this stuff. And has them, and kind of analyzes what happened. I think it's fantastic, and we're going to have a lot more of that. There's going to be people that are going to revisit the manuals that had a manual back in the day, but we're at an age where that was quite the book to go through. But now we'll have the time to go through that. That type of stuff, I think, is going to be is going to be cool. It's going to be very cool.
Yeah, people are very pleased when they receive their units for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so on that note, I'm going to talk about. So I did a presentation at VCF Midwest called Full Circle, and that presentation was okay. We had a problem with the video and the laptop not using their stuff correctly, blah, blah, blah. And so I looked at the VCF Midwest video they had done, and it was like pan between slides and stuff like that. And that wasn't really how I had planned on doing it, but.
So you're going to try and redo it, but
I'm kind of redo a little bit of it.
It's kind of like Commodore, a version
but I hope
2.
I want you guys to stay here and just chat with me too, because I think how this is going to work is I have not tried this on the share screen with the Zoom on this yet. I'm going to see if I can actually get this to pop up and be as a full screen. And
so as anybody now can see, as certain things don't change between the years that we've been doing this, there's still a fair amount of experimentation on live stream going on.
Yeah. No matter how much we think we've got
exactly,
down to a science,
you gotta wing it a little bit.
YouTube doesn't stand still either, does it?
That is exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna have to make yourself presenter or something, or put yourself in the middle of the screen and put us out of the way.
Yeah, let me see if I can actually start this. Okay. Except that's not what I wanted, because now it's not going to do that. Well, what I could do, I guess, is use OBS to do it that way as well. I wonder. I was hoping I could share it.
Bear with us, we'll get this sorted soon enough.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's going to be a lot quicker than your last Windows 11 updates, promise.
Maybe, bro. Well, it doesn't seem like I can. My issue is I can't see you guys.
I think
Or
on Zoom you can do a view on the right top, and then you can change us to presenter view. You should have us on multi-speaker, but you probably want to
yeah,
go.
that's the problem. Is that this player program for the presentation, it wants to take two monitors, and so I have to move you guys over here.
No,
so I
we
can
didn't have
do
those problems when we had a C64. I had black and white television for the longest time. That had a V hold, and it take 20 minutes for the V hold to actually stick. So during 20 minutes, you had to go to the back of that little screen. It was a little Arista, I think. And you had to like adjust it so that the screen would stay in place. I had no knowledge of how many colors a C64 had because they were all shades of gray to me.
Yes.
Poor shades of gray.
Oh no.
That was my
Yep.
experience.
When I was a kid, I think doing Zoom on the 64 was running at the screen.
Well,
Well,
unfortunately,
now we can mesh Tastic on our 64, so who needs Zoom?
I know who needs
That's
that,
true.
right? You know, our communication was mastastic by opening up the front door and just yelling at your mates.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm gonna have to use disk or the
Sometimes, people ask,
yes.
whether or not authentic behavior is something that is still existing. You see here, we don't, we loosely prepped. We made a lot of preparation in the technical side, a lot of preparation on the schedule. But, here
Well,
it's set up there, yeah? Fry is
Eh.
there's loads of work in all the presentations, and then we just go for it.
Lee will
Okay.
just fix it in post-prod.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to do. Yeah, unfortunately, this is not happy about this. So let's see if I can get Zoom now. There. All right.
Well, let you while
That should work.
you do that, we'll let you fiddle
There.
a little bit. There. Oh,
Here we
get
go.
something. Now you need to get yourself to full screen or something. We see the Commodore logo, nice neon
Yep.
logo.
That looks like the presentation I saw
Yeah.
from the show day.
Unfortunately, I do not know if it's going to show full screen.
There we go.
Close enough. There it goes. Okay. All right. So now I need this. Okay. So yeah, we'll just give us the world and see what happens. Okay. Full circle with me.
Right. You gotta
So-
change the view still, I think.
Oh,
We're
that's
still
right.
on a equal 3-pane view
Yeah. Let's
in
see.
Zoom.
Let's do speaker. We do. I think you guys have to pop your videos out.
Okay. I just
No idea
stop
what
my
you did.
video.
Yeah. Doing the same here.
There, that looks full screen. Right? Okay. So, all right. So I did a presentation at VCF Midwest. Basically, I started early on in my life with Commodore, and in 1974, my dad was a museum director, and he actually built a relationship with Commodore. He was a museum director, and this was the Klamath County Museum in Klamath Falls, Oregon. And he decided that what he wanted to do was organize everything. And he found that there was a company, it was in Canada at the time, I think, or just coming into the US and into Pennsylvania, but they had office furniture and desks and things that were renowned for being super duper strong. And this is basically what is being used or was being used at the museum. This is a Commodore, a filing cabinet, another filing cabinet. You can see it's got the Commodore logo on it. And then they even had desks back in the day. You can see there's a little Commodore logo in there. And so in 1977, my dad decided that he was going to get a computer system for the museum so they could do inventory of the museum. And so in 1977, there was a PET 2001 purchased, and that 2001, chiclet keyboard and all that. And so I got the pet to play with, and my dad assigned me to do it, and I was 12 years old. And so that was my first computer, and I worked on it for a long time. And clearly that, the museum wasn't going to be able to do an inventory system on an 8K of RAM and a cassette tape. But it got me into, this computer exactly like this for the first time in my life. And that's what I learned to program on. And so there was no manual. There was a cassette tape with big time and squiggle on it, and there was a pamphlet for it, and that's it. And so you can see this is what came with it, big time and squiggle. So in 1978, I finally ended up getting the manual for the computer, and I also got a cassette tape that had Commodore's ML monitor on it. And so I started writing machine language coding. And there's a big difference between machine language and assembly. In machine language, you have to actually enter in hex values, and you don't have an assembler, in comments, anything like that. You have to do it all by hand. And so basically, this is the manual that I got for it finally after a year. And that's the cassette tape that came with it, the manual, which was nice. So I learned machine coding basically in 1978, and which, like I said, it's a huge difference in what you see for the assembly part. You don't have an assembler. So in 1979, I entered high school. I was doing a lot of game writing, and then I learned about the CB2, which is the VIA output port on the VIA itself. That's how you could generate audio. It'll generate a square wave for you if you just poke in a frequency, a duty cycle. And so at this point, the PET really was being used by the museum as a kiosk machine. So I write software. My dad would bring it home on a weekend, and I would change the kiosk. And so that's what I did back then. But I was writing a lot of games in high school. And so this is like the CB2 interface. And Jim Happel, who happens to be doing the presentation on Meshtastic this weekend, he actually makes a device for the PET that makes it a whole lot easier than having to connect wires directly to the port. This gives you the CB2 sound output and some joystick interface, which is pretty cool. So in 1980, my junior high school received a bunch of PETs, and I helped them set up all the printers and the disk drives. And man, I wanted a disk drive so bad because cassette tapes took forever to load. And so that was my big goal, was to get a disk drive at some point. This is a printer that I actually set up. I believe that these are tractor printers. Not sure who made these for Commodore. It was like Star or Gemini or somebody like that made these for them. So when 81 rolls around, basically I'm an electronics junkie, and I couldn't resist an ad that I saw. I showed my dad, and it was for this machine, which is a ZX81. And I really wanted to build it because I was like a huge Radio Shack guy. And so I ended up getting this for Christmas in 81, which was cool. Still a cassette tape, but different kind of CPU. Didn't have assembly code I knew because it was Z80 based instead of 6502. So it was a steep learning curve to try to do anything productive with it, but it was fun. So in 82, with my junior year in high school, I got a VIC-20, and I started writing some more games. And I wrote a character graphics generator. Then I got exposed to TRS-80. There's my VIC, actually. And there's the TRS-80 Model 1, Level 1. And my buddy Andy had one, and he was a Z80 assembly guy. So I got to learn assembly through him, and Andy's dad also was a professor at the college. So we both were basically enrolled in the college courses there for a couple of years before we got out of high school, which was great. And in 1983, we had Apple IIs in our school, in the computer science class. And I ended up getting kicked out of AP English and then later General English because I was writing programs in class. And I remember one time they were reading Macbeth in General English, and I had papers all over my desk. It was yellow notebook paper, and the pad paper. And I remember a teacher saying to me, "Mr. Drew, we bothering you?" And I'm like, "No, go right ahead. I'm fine." And so I got kicked out. So yeah, it happens. This what happened when I got out of high school. I moved to Hawaii, and the idea was to go to University of Hawaii there and to find this beach and this girl, and neither one of them happened actually because when I got there, my uncle, who was full Samoan, gave me a job basically at the Dole pineapple plant. So this is Dole's assembly line. Their cans in the cannery, and so this is where I worked actually as depalletizer. It was a tough job actually, um, but I was looking for another job, and then Safeway had an ad, and they had it for people with electronic experience that were interested in doing repairs. And they were repairing these, which is the very first barcode scanner. So they were installing these and repairing them because they were breaking constantly. So these were kind of neat. And you can see there's a ton of TTL stuff in here. And so they needed people with experience with this. And I had experience, building things like this because of my Radio Shack days and, my Commodore days. And so I got a job doing that. So then I ended up moving back about 5 months later to Portland, Oregon, and which was because I didn't like the rain, and I decided to move back. And then I found an ad in the local paper for a job with a very familiar logo. It was actually a Commodore logo, and it was a position for being the department head of the educational support division for the schools for state of Oregon. And I was 18 years old, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to apply for this job anyway. And I don't know if they felt sorry for me or they just wanted to get somebody in because they didn't have anybody, but I got the position and I ended up helping schools um, integrate new systems. But the big thing was I didn't realize is it was a sales job. I was supposed to be selling 64s in place of pets and stuff, which was a real hard sale for, schools that have budgets that are limited. So if there's a lot of things like the disk drives, like the IEEE drives, they're not compatible. So you'd have to have new disk drives. Monitors were compatible, printers were not compatible. So there's a lot of things we had to sell. Um, so that's what I saw in the ad, which was great, which I recognized right away. And so while I was there, this company was called Computron Business Systems, that was the storefront for Commodore's place. And so they had a small storefront, and I got them to actually start advertising products that local developers were making in Run magazine. And I don't think Compute Gazette was back then at the time, maybe Compute, but it was Run for sure. And so these are some of the ads that they had run, which was pretty neat. And so there's a lot of things like Approspan and such that you might recognize in these ads. And then so what we ended up doing is that there's a couple of guys that came in that all the time to talk to me, and they were both hardware engineers. One of them was an engineer for Warren Winch Company, and the other was an engineer for Approspan, who designed all the stuff for the VIC-20. And we were talking one day, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had a cartridge copier for 64? And so basically, we put our heads together and designed this, and it was sold by Computron in the magazines as well. And this cartridge copier was very unique. It's the only one I've ever seen done this way. It has a standard cartridge slot for 64 cartridge, and then it has a large slot you see above it. It's designed for a VIC-20. And so the VIC-20 RAM expansion went into the slot here, and you would you would put the cartridge in, put 64 cartridge in, you flip some disk switches, and you would save that file to a disk or to cassette tape. And then you would have a 16K RAM expansion cartridge plugged into the board as well. And you could load the cartridge data back into the cartridge and it would emulate the cartridge slot. You could write protect it and it would be exactly like you had a real cartridge in there. And so there was no copy protection you had to get around. On the cartridges, they try to bank switch out the ROM space on purpose. So if you have this loaded into regular RAM instead, it switches out the RAM so it would crash. And there's other things they can do, but this allowed you to use the cartridge identical. So you can see from Commodore or from Computron Business Systems. So in 1984, I released a program called Gemini 2.0 was a copy program. And I did this. Basically, what happened is that I decided I'm going to have to leave Commodore because there were so many ideas that these two guys and I had, and we thought it would be great to have a company. And so we split off. I mean, I split off from Commodore and I formed a new company with these guys, and then we released a bunch of different products. So you can see Gemini 2.0 is my copy program. The company name was Final Source Software, and this was actually a disk I think somebody had sent me. So in 1985, so we ended up selling all these programs and stuff through a company called Megasoft, and Megasoft had this copier that they were coming out with called the Shadow, and it was a piece of hardware. And then I had a disk copier I had written called Keymaster, and I also did a replacement ROM. And I actually got permission from Commodore to use this as a ROM overlay, very similar to how Jiffy DOS is. Same kind of license that we both had. I had one for the disk drive as well. But this Shadow was kind of a big fiasco because this was something that the guy that invented it, it never actually worked. And there's a lot of speculation. Did he do it on purpose, or if it was like didn't know what he was doing, or whatever. Um, but the hacker pack, which is like this disk drive image that you can see was my sets of keys right there. This hacker package, basically, it's a disk drive display on the front of it, and that was actually all faked because I created this for the ad itself because they hadn't even made it yet. And I ended up making something for real for myself before this, actually. So I had something to go on. And this was the drive that I actually had done myself. And later on, I released this whole thing as a box that sits on top of the disk drive. But this was the precursor to what the Hacker Pack was, and that never got released. So in 19, oh, wow, this thing happened as well. Okay, so and also in 1985, I wanted to get a C-128 because it was just starting to come out, or was going to be coming out shortly. And so this Commodore 128 was sent to me by one of the execs at Commodore. And you can see this is, I still have this computer. It says property of Commodore, not for sale, yada, yada, yada. And then come to find out that this actually was stolen off of Dave Haney's desk by one of the execs and sent to me. So you can see this is what the label looks like. And this is what it looks like inside. So in 86, there was so much fallout from the Shadow and all these pre-orders that were taken, and hundreds of thousands of dollars were taken. And this is 1986 money, so it's a ton of money that was taken. I ended up fixing it, the Shadow, by making some new software for it and then making a change to the hardware. So basically, it became a glorified 8K RAM board when it was done. It didn't do anything much. And then the owner of Megasoft ended up selling out to husband and wife that were just got out of the forklift business and they wanted to be into the future. And so that's basically Reggie was the guy that did it. And so this was ended up being the Shadow Fix disc that was made. If you look at the directory on there, it's got a bunch of programs that I wrote on it. And in 1987, Reggie sells the remaining part of Utilities Limited. Basically, Utilities Limited was formed out of Megasoft, out of the ashes of it. And then I also got part of the company. I ended up getting 20%, and I actually got a salary, which was insane because I was getting just like paid every week or every other week something based on what the sales were. And sales were great, but this guy was a scoundrel. So, ask anybody that wrote code back in the day, they're like, oh, we'll give you $200. Like, really? I think it's a lot of money when you're 18, 19 years old, but it ends up being that they made literally, millions of dollars in today's money. It was ridiculous. So we decided at that time what we were going to do with the company because the Amiga had already come out for a while and not long, but we didn't know if we are going to do a Nintendo cartridge copier or be in the Amiga market. And then I sent a letter to Nintendo asking what they thought about doing a cartridge copier. And then we got a response from Nintendo's attorneys. And so we went to the Amiga market as a result of that. So I ended up designing a Supercard Amy, which is a disk copier for the Amiga itself. This is external version for an Amiga 500 or 2000 or 3000, or 4000, I guess too. So this was just a basically you plug one drive into it, and it uses the internal drive and would do a flux copy of everything that you could run through it, which was great. But I didn't know anything about the operating system at all. Basically, the first version of this I had done was no OS. It was all taken over the computer, just doing bitmap graphics right to the hardware because I didn't understand the Amiga OS at the time. So that would later get fixed because in 1988 I would learn how the Amiga works, and then I would do it as a normal application. And then there was a lawsuit we had over people had stolen the code and the hardware design for it in the UK, and we won, but I got a box of product, and that was about the extent of it. And so this is the newer version of the SuperCard, Amy 2, which they stole. And this was the internal version I had done. So Acre 2000 could actually be with 2 drives internally with it, which was neat. And this is another product we had done at the time, which is a ROM switcher. So you can select between the Kickstart 1.3 and 2.0. And then so 1989 rolls around, winding down the last of the 64 software releases, and they're focusing pretty much on the Amiga at that point now. And then I ended up going to the world of Commodore in Pasadena, which is this location here, which was cool. And we sold some product there, 64 stuff pretty much. And then in 1990, I developed a disk copier called Sybil. And Sybil is a simple yet borderline illegal luxury. So basically, it was the first time you could duplicate a disk with a single drive. And I did it by altering the Amiga's clock through the Genlock port. So this plugged into the video port and the parallel port. And by changing the speed of the clock in the computer, it changed the clocking of all the chips, including Paula, which is the disk controller. And so I could slow it down or speed it up. And at that point, I could basically read and write long tracks of data. And more importantly, I was able to read and write Macintosh 800, 400K disks because Mac disks are variable speed. They have 5 different speed zones. So if you listen to a Mac disk drive run, you can actually hear it change speeds. It's kind of like a CD-ROM, changing speeds, same kind of idea. And so because of that, it attracted the attention of ReadySoft. So ReadySoft is a company that made Dragon's Lair and all these different game programs or like arcade games. But they also made AMAX for the Amiga, which was a Mac Plus emulator. And so they wanted to basically have a version for themselves that they could detect and use with AMAX to read and write Mac disks from within the emulation. And so we did this deal and said, okay, we're ready to ship them to you. And they decided that they didn't want them anymore. And so we had just tons of inventory of this. And I was a little ticked about the whole thing. But, it's ReadySoft, and what can you do? So we got tired of the weather. And in Oregon, we were in Portland, and we got a map of the US out and threw up a quarter, and it landed on Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Literally, that's what it did. And we all moved this far away, sight unseen. And it was kind of a bold move, but on April 4th of 1991, I moved here. It was 100 degrees when I got here. So it's very warm. We don't have the rain and that we had in Oregon and stuff. And so let's see. I moved away from this. Oh, then we went to the very first. This is the picture of the World of Commodore show in London. So this is Wembley Stadium, and it's basically I introduced a bunch of different ideas at the time, including we wanted to do a full color Mac emulation that was multitasking because ReadySoft said it wasn't even possible to do. So I came back from this show in 1992, ended up hiring Joe Fenton, and who arrived in February, and on August 22nd of 1992, the implant got FCC verification testing. And so verification is different than certification. Certification requires that you provide schematics and all that back in the day. Verification didn't. And so there was a lot of issues with the testing actually. We ended up going through FCC testing twice because the first time our Sakosha printer failed, which is not good. And so they came back the following, I think it was on a Friday, we came back on a Monday and we ended up passing it. So these are the manuals and the box that we had made for the product. I actually designed the entire circuit board for the implant on the Amiga itself. This is used what's called Pro Board. And this is all of the circuit board you get to see at once. You had to scroll around. You couldn't zoom in and out. So it was a little bit of a pain to look at traces and connect things. But it was done. It was a um, very cool project to do on the Amiga. And this is the very first version we did. This was the one that went through FCC. And I had some white sockets that were cool. I put them on there. And you can see this is all the bodge wires. So FCC lets you put bodge wires on. And the whole premise behind that is that they think that if you've got bodge wires and pass, then you're going to pass without these. And that's the thinking back then. You can't actually do this anymore. You have to have clean boards now. So this is what's on the implant board itself. So why buy any other computer when the Amiga can emulate all of them? You hold in your hand the power to emulate virtually any personal computer made today. Now, aren't you glad you bought an Amiga? And we thought so too. So we had space over here on the board, and I told Joe, it's like, let's put this little Sane over here. So he said, that's cool, we'll do that. This is an actual production board, what they look like, coming out of the factory, which was great. And these were all made in my city here. We actually had people we hired here, and we have a military contractor in the city, and they actually did all of the through-hole parts, which was great. So 93 rolls around. I ended up going to the World of Commodore in New York. And while I'm there, I met with John DeLulu, who was the head of marketing, about doing an Amiga 4000 implant combo. And I will say also that I met with Dave Haney at this event, and Dave and I were talking about the past and stuff. And turns out that's how I found out that was Dave Haney's C128 that was stolen. That we put two and two together at that event, and like, that's where my computer went. It's like, yeah, sorry. So when I met with Commodore, I was really gung ho about doing an implant combo because we were selling implant boards to movie studios to take the place of Avid video suites that are normally done with a Mac, or they actually lease time in a studio. So they were leasing time for how many thousands of dollars per hour, or you could buy an Amiga and a toaster and and an implant board and stuff, and you could have your whole entire workstation of everything you needed for cheap compared to what it cost to do any kind of renting or leasing of studio time. And the implant board ran the Mac software, especially anything that had to do with FPU, about 2.5 times faster. So you could do a lot of post-processing work much faster on that combination. And so I really wanted the deal to go through, so I went to Apple actually, and I met with John Scully and a bunch of people at this facility in Cupertino. This is the original headquarters back in the day, and I pitched my thing to Apple. And so their biggest concern was compatibility and the image of it. What it would make Apple look like if it was clunky or whatever. And so when I was done with my show for them, they were very stunned because not only was it substantially faster than any Mac model that you could buy, I could run all Mac software because you could change the ROM image. And so there were some software that would not run on certain machines that would run on this. So literally I could run everything on here. So they were very surprised, but they also knew that we didn't do anything wrong because you had to go get the ROMs and stuff. And so Apple's big response to this was, um, we're not going to let ROMs be sold anymore. So they notified that all their repair centers are no longer to allow people to be selling the ROMs out of them when there's a ROM upgrade for the computer. So, because we patched everything out of all the ROMs, so they end up getting the latest ROM code anyway on the patches. So this is the World of Commodore show in Pasadena again. Um, and we went to this show. This is the exhibitors ballroom stuff. There's a giant show downtown as well. There's multiple shows that happened that year. So Commodore show in Pasadena, Mississauga in Canada, and then in Pasadena. So we did a lot of stuff. That's the show in Toronto, the city went there. So we did a lot of traveling that year. So 1994, I released the Amiga, which is a little Mac adapter. This lets you plug a real Mac disk drive into your Amiga and use it, which was pretty cool. And and the death of the Amiga happened. That's more a picture of the internal of the Amiga. So the Amiga died and Commodore died basically in 94, and which was also a bad deal. But we kept going with the company, and I decided to make Fusion, which was a new Mac emulation for the Amiga. So basically, it's the next generation of what I did for the implant board. And then 1996, August 24th, 2 years to the day of implant FCC verification, Utilities Limited closed, and I formed Microcode Solutions, which is a company designing emulation technology. And then set in 1997, Fusion was finally released, and the PCX was released. And so PCX is the next generation of the PC emulation we did for the implant board. And then this is the backside of these were CDs. So Blittersoft was our distributor overseas, and they made these nice CD cases. There's actually a floppy disk inside instead of a CD, which is great. And people are wondering about the the rumor that was out there about how big the assembly code was. So I did everything in assembly. I don't do anything in other languages typically. I mean, now I do a little bit of C stuff, but still it's almost all assembly. So gives you an idea of the PCX coding was 1.6 million lines of code. That's how many lines for the emulation code. So it really is true. In 1998, Fusion PC was started. So Fusion PC was the PC version of our Mac emulation, and it got released. The demo version got released on downloads.com, and it crashed it, downloads.com, because we had 1 million downloads in the first day. So this ended up being on a PC. This is super popular in Japan because you could, for the first time, have a very small Mac. So they had a machine called the Toshiba Libretto, which was basically the size of a VHS tape, and it's you could run a Mac on that size, which was great for those guys. They loved it. So I ended up, because of that, I ended up going to Macworld in Tokyo, and I sold the rights to Fusion for the Amiga to Blittersoft, the production rights, not the copyrights or anything. And so I went to Macworld, and I ended up going, and this was one of the billboards they had at the booth, and I ended up um, signing some books. They actually wrote a book about Fusion PC, so that's how crazy the Japanese market is. Literally wrote a book, and so this is me when I was, it's like I was 12 years old, but it's back in '99, I guess. Geez. And then I got into racing, and away from coding and stuff. And this is a car I built for racing. So in 2000 to 2005, I did Macworld again, and then I ended up selling Fusion PC to a competitor. And then I moved away pretty much from doing computer stuff, mostly into making microcontroller-based products, using microchip parts pretty much. And so I ended up going to a friend of mine's house that was playing paintball in his backyard. He had a paintball gun, and I'm shooting it, and I got sucked into it. So I started playing a little bit, and this guy kept shooting me over and over when I was trying to hide. And I finally, at the end of the day, I asked him, like, "How do you know, where I'm at?" And he's like, "Oh, it's easy. When you run out of paint, your hopper motor keeps running." And so I went home immediately, and I fixed that. Oh, this is my other year of this. There we go. So this is microchip stuff I had done. And this is that hopper controller board I built after the fact, which basically shuts the motor off, and so you don't get shot when there's no paint in your hopper. And it's prototype boards, and then production boards. and then actual production product. So I was actually officially in the business of doing paintball stuff, and I played in tournaments all over the world, literally. Um, there's this, and I don't think this is going to play because it's in a video. Uh-oh. My thing stuck. Okay. All right, well, we'll skip the video. So in 2005, I got out of RC or stuff, or got into RC, got out of paintball, and so I started developing products for radio control industry and doing some UAV stuff, doing a lot of telemetry stuff, and I developed the longest full range system in 2006 for doing flight control, and that's called the Extreme Link system. And so basically that was a system that you could plug into old radios and it put your aircraft or car or boat or whatever onto 2.4 gigahertz. So I was the person who actually invented that back then for full range. Just neat. And then I was a huge jet jockey guy, so I love jets. So we actually ended up going and using our system in what's called a Top Gun event for jets, and I had a friend of mine fly his jet. So it was the first time that 2.4 had flown on a jet. We have telemetry, of course. We can see speeds and all stuff, which was cool. And then I transitioned pretty much into the UAV industry at that point because we had tons of contractors and attracted the attention of the US military and all that. So I ended up learning SolidWorks so I could design enclosures and stuff. These are SLS enclosures that I used for the radio control systems for testing the cases before they went to plastic injection, which was great. And this is probably, what, 4 years before we had the very first 3D printer for home, which is good. So, and that was so this is all 2008. And then I also got married in 2008, which was nice. This is my wife. She's a wonderful lady. And then from 2009 to 2010, I was doing large transport stuff for UAVs. And so I ended up doing a bunch of large scale models for testing. And these are pretty big models. You can see that they're pretty big, 50 pounds, 60 pounds of weight. And these are all electric, actually, this size. So I invented a fan system for doing electric ducted fan. So the motor you see on here is it's actually a 20 horsepower motor, and it can do I think we get 26 pounds of thrust out of this little guy, which was great because you can pull a big plane with this, and it's pretty quiet. I mean, it's a ducted fan, so it's not like loud like the other was. But and I'll show you a video of this, but they wasn't want to play the video. So I built a speed plane for the Guinness World Book of Records so I could set the world speed record. And so I did a category for world's fastest jet, RC electric. And so this plane, I have a video that won't show, I'm sure. No. But it does 223 miles an hour in that pass, and I actually be able to do 240 in that plane. So it's pretty quick. So in 2011, I get a really nasty grant from somebody that is demanding that I send them a disc for the item they bought on eBay. And of course, I don't sell anything on eBay. So I asked the guy, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I bought this product from you on eBay and it didn't come with the disc. I'm like, well, you didn't buy anything from me because I don't sell on eBay. And so after some investigation, it turns out that somebody in the UK had basically stolen everything I had made for 64 and was reproducing it and selling it on eBay. So I had to get, an attorney and send him a nasty gram. And so I started looking into what's going on. Like, I didn't realize that there was some kind of a resurgence of, Commodore stuff. And so when I figured it out, I had probably, I don't know, a few $100,000 worth of inventory that I had still in storage. And so I started putting stuff on eBay myself. So in 2012, I got tasked with doing something that was a rather fun project. I became friends with Mike Cameron, and he has a vacation home here where I live. And I met him at our flying field when I was doing UAV testing, and figured out who he was. He's the brother of James Cameron, the movie producer. And so he's always told me, he's like, yeah, well, we'll do something with you someday, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So he called me one day and said, hey, are you ready to do something? And so I worked on James Cameron's Mariana Trench dive project. I created all the flight control systems for the ROV. And so when Mike and I went to Guam to put the ROV integrated into the sub, we had a problem with the optic fiber cable that Mike had designed. It's a fluid compensated cable. The people had made the tensile strength way too strong. And as a result, it would have held Jim under the water if you tried to leave if the ROV was stuck. So we had to basically make a whole new cable. So we ended up going to the Home Depot, literally, and we got a whole bunch of stuff. We ended up using a technique that I learned from doing the 64 stuff. So whenever you do a hack or a mod on 64, you do wiring to the motherboard or to the board itself, if you always forget that you need to put the shrink tubing over top of the insulation. And so I came up with a method back then that I showed Mike. I said, this is going to work. Trust me. I've done this a gazillion times with a Commodore. Basically, if you are very, very careful and slice the piece of shrink tubing down the side, you can then open it up and wrap it around and take a soldering iron and you can actually heat it all around and seal it. And so for 2 straight days on the hotel room floor, Mike and I sat and we did that every 8 inches for, I think it was 150 or 200 feet. And so, of course, you can be super duper careful because you're trying to heat over top of a gel-filled optic fiber line. So you can't melt it. If you get one little hole, it's done. It ruins the whole thing. You have to start over. So Jim did his dive and we're a big success, which was great. So Jim lived, which is good because he's a good guy. He's come to my office a few times before. He's a good guy. So also that year, I decided I was going to be fully back in the market for doing computer stuff again. And so this is a flux copier I've designed called SuperCard Pro, which allows you to basically archive any kind of floppy disk, 8-inch, 3-inch, 3.5-inch, 5 1/4. And I've got software for the PC that does it. I have a new version that's coming out, and I'll talk about that on Sunday and show you the difference with that. Let's see, this is see what the board looks like. And also this year was the very first year that this came out, which is the Ultimaker wood kit. So if anybody knows the old school way of doing things, this is it. This is a 3mm filament and no heated bed, and it just, it is what it is. It was a good time. And then so in 2013, pretty much I'm doing everything that's classified. So I am Alexa's trying to talk to me. So 2014, I decided to do a modem. And so I make the Y modem for the 64. This plugs in the back 64 or a VIC-20 and lets you jump on the internet, do BBS browsing and such, which was a neat project. So it's now 2014. So it's, that's 11 years old now. Wow, time flies. So in 2015, I'm back to doing this stuff. And I'm doing this pretty much mostly, all these different contracts for UAV industry. But I also took some time. I made a version of the Y modem for the Amiga people and for, PC as well as Atari and all that. So this is an RS-232 version of the Y modem. And in 2017 to 2018, I got more of this stuff going on. And in 2019, I noticed something was happening. We were having a severe part shortage. So this is before we had COVID or anything. We had some really bad part shortages going on that people weren't even talking about yet. And so there was also new cases for 64 came out from Dallas Moore. It was a Indiegogo project, which was cool. And everybody had basically it's a 64C case. And I wanted to have keycaps, and there was a failed keycap campaign on Indiegogo. And the community pushed me, and I finally caved. And so I made keycaps for your 64, and it got funded. It was great. And January of 2020 rolls around. China closes for Chinese New Year, and China never reopens because we have COVID. And it ended up the factory that I was using for doing the keycap production was commandeered by the Chinese government, taken over, and to make PPE. And right now that company still is the same situation. And so 2022, we had no parts available for anything. The part shortage was horrible. We couldn't get anything at all. And in 2023, I finally got the manufacturer for the keycaps, and keycaps got shipped out to all the backers. Everybody got taken care of. And this is what the keycaps ended up looking like, which was great. They were the ones that were perfect after we went through this whole mess. They're great. I was very happy with that. So I also released a brand new version of the Y modem. This is the Y modem Pro, and this has a nice little display. And just basically it's an upgrade with faster CPU because of the part shortage. I couldn't get the other one anymore, so that was a problem. And then like 2024 rolls around, and I started looking at all the trademarks that Commodore had. And when I went through the campaign, the keycap campaign, I immediately got a nasty gram from Commodore's attorneys saying that they were going to sue me for using the iconic shape of the keyboard and the font. And the truth to be told is that Commodore never created any of that stuff. That was Mitsumi who did. And there were no design patents that would even be possibly valid still, because it would have been 30 some years. And so I just kept track of what was going on. And then I found out that, oh, this is my other one I did too. Sorry, getting ahead of myself here. At the same time, I was also looking at doing a new keyboard, which is why I looked at the trademarks. So I made a new keyboard called the Bling Board 64, and basically it's a mechanical version with LEDs and such. And then I was looking at all these trademarks, and what I ended up doing is that because this one's dead and abandoned by USPTO, I filed for all the trademarks. So I filed for the Chicken Lips trademark, and then I also filed for the Commodore trademark. This was one that was abandoned as well, and they were abandoned for non-use. So they refused to provide a statement of use. And so I'm pending on the applications for that. And there was no objections at this point to anything. And the examiners they gave me some feedback about the Chicken Lips logo, which I was able to get around. And so now, 2025, beginning of the year, I get a message from Parafractic asking if I wanted to chat about something. And I was like, sure. And so it turns out that, as everybody knows, Commodore's coming back, and um, I wanted they wanted me to provide keyboards, and just by chance, he knew that somebody had filed for these trademarks, but he had no idea it was me. And so we ended up doing a deal, and so now I'm an official partner for Commodore, and I have a license to use the logos, not exclusive, but I get to use them worldwide, which is great because I was be limited to the United States only if I had kept the trademarks the way they were. And so then this is a new version of the circuit board that's you'll find in the Starlights. This is my version of it. Starlights is different, but it's a clear board. People got to see these at VCF Midwest, and you can see this is what the keycaps are in clear, which is it's kind of nifty. And so that's kind of where we're at in this whole full circle moment. I basically ended up, starting with a pet back in the day, and ended up coming back to, Commodore, back home kind of, So it's been an interesting journey with that whole thing because the people that are in Commodore, they weren't there in the beginning, and they don't do the production things like we do. Well, we did back in the day. So it's a learning curve for them, but I have to say, it's been it's been a good learning curve. A little frustrating at times for everybody because everybody wants to know everything all at once. But good people and good product. Good. And the most important thing for me was the vision of what is going to happen in the future. It's not going to be just a money grab, which was my biggest concern up front. And so we're going to see a bunch of stuff coming out of the new Commodore, and everybody's going to be very happy with it. It kind of reminds me of some of the stories that Dave Haney and Bill Hurd had said about, working on projects in the middle of the night and all that. Because Gideon and I worked together doing the interface for the keyboard and the main board. And so we live in different, continents, and so it's been 2 in the morning his time, it's been 2 in the morning my time, and so it's been a great thing to work with him. It's been a lot of fun. So it's been a good thing for everybody, I think. So Yuri, are you guys still in here? Did you like bail out? No? Yes?
I'm still here.
Are you still here? Oh,
Yeah,
you
I'm
you
just
can
sitting
pop
here
back in. You
quietly
guys
in the
can pop
background,
back in if
enjoying
you
the show.
want. Yeah, you guys can pop back in.
Okay, hang on. Let me turn my camera back on. There we go.
There we go.
There we
Okay.
go. I'm not
Yeah,
sure where
so
Yuri is.
yeah, that's kind of what I gave for the VCF Midwest. I left some things out, added some other things. Basically, that's kind of my history. Started with a pet, ended with a 64, new 64. Well, not ended, I should say, continuing on, with the new 64. But it's been, a long time. So one thing I didn't say in the video that I had mentioned in the VCF, which hadn't happened at the time, is that I've been trying to get that PET 2001 from the museum for 10 years probably. And my dad has always said that, well, you should talk to them. Maybe they'll, blah, blah, blah. So I did, and they're like, no, there's no way we're getting rid of it. It's part of me. It's county property. They treated it as property, not for what it was, right? And I'm
Yeah,
like, okay. So the last museum director I talked to a few years ago, he's like, no, they still don't want to do it, but don't give up hope because maybe the board will die and new people will come in that they'll let you do it or something like that. I'm like, okay. So when I was prepping for the show in Chicago, I looked into so when my dad became museum director, his very first day, he was going through these giant bins or barrels, like 55-gallon drums, and they had paper in them. And so he's pulling paper out to see what's in these things. And he comes across, my dad was an art guy, and he comes to look at it, and he looks at these, and he thought, there's no way. And he sets them aside. It turns out these were original Rembrandts that were
wow,
actually in the trash.
wow.
And so I remember going, so I was like 13 years old, or no, actually, this was younger than that. So I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And then going to San Francisco with my dad to get them appraised. And they really were Rembrandts. So I actually,
Wow.
when I was doing this research for this presentation, I pinged the museum director, which was a new person now. She's been there for 10 months. I said, hey, do you guys still have the Rembrandts there? Because Google says you've never had any. I did a Google search on it. And I thought, well,
Yeah,
that's awfully odd because these things are worth millions of dollars. Like they have to have these
yeah,
somewhere, right? That'd be like the biggest scandal ever. What happened to these pictures that disappeared?
yeah. It's
And
not
so
good for
she
the
immediately,
museum to
yeah.
lose
So in
though.
the email too, I said, by the way, I'm still trying to get the hold of that pet. Let me know what you think about. I'll be happy to trade you for a brand spanking new looking, refurbished, beautiful model. I just want that one because that one has sentimental value for me. And she responded, said, yeah, we got the Rembrandts. They're in the, climate controlled vault, of course. And if you want the pet,
Great.
come and get it. I was like,
Hey,
what?
yeah,
So literally, I told my wife, and 2 days later, we drove to Klamath, and we picked up the pet, and I wore my Commodore shirt, and went in there and did the whole thing with it, and it was funny because it had been sitting on a shelf in the museum. I thought I had the original box still because I know when it was put away when I last saw it. I think in 1980 is when last time I saw it. It was in the original Commodore box. And I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna get an original Commodore box too. No chance.
no,
It was
no.
sitting on a shelf for 45 years. And so
Wow.
it had dust that was so thick on it. And they tried to clean it. And of course, if you take a dry cloth across, it looked like it had somebody taking sandpaper almost to it. I'm like, don't clean it, please. Let me clean it.
Yeah, yes.
So I brought it
Handle
back
with
to the
care.
hotel and I actually went and got some microfiber and some water and some real cleaner. And I kind of babied it and cleaned it. And I took a picture that's in my Discord. And yeah, it was a happy day for me, I wish my dad was still alive to see that happen, but he
Yeah.
pushed me to get it done, so that was
They'll
cool.
want it. They'll want it back, seeing how lovely and clean you've got it now.
Yeah, it's pretty clean. I took it all apart. It's funny because I didn't realize that. So the bezel itself had one part of the bezel kind of kicked out a little bit away from the metal, and I thought, that's weird. I've never seen one that way because I had no idea how they were actually glued. And so I just took my finger in the inside and I just went like this, and it just popped off. The bezel popped off. And it popped off clean. And so
Yep.
what they've got is they have two strips on top of each other of double-sided foam tape, and it's a square hole that's cut out for that monitor. And so it's got strips like this and like this across it. And then the bezel itself, you look at it, there's no debris, and it actually just popped just from age, you know. So I thought, well, that's cool because when I did my 3D model of one of I've got here, I didn't do that, so I didn't have like 100% accurate dimensions. I did, you
Ah,
know, close with the mic. So now I
yeah,
can actually get in there, I can measure it, and I can go back to my model and make sure
yeah.
that's
It's
all right.
nothing like having the actual thing to measure
Yeah,
it
exactly.
perfectly.
It's much
Yeah,
better to
yeah,
do it that way. So
yeah. Fantastic.
that was nifty. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that was basically my journey. I got my computer back. I got this. I'm back with doing the stuff with Commodore. I mean, life is good. So
Yeah, it's mad how all those things have just kind of converged all in this one place, one time, sort of
yeah,
magical. Yeah,
yeah. Who
yeah.
knew? You know, it's been
And
a
you've gone so your life story is such an incredible, like so many things you've been involved in. It's just mind blowing, really.
yeah. I wish I
So,
could talk about the stuff I can't talk about because that stuff's even cooler to me than anything else. You
well,
know.
what's exciting, well, from my point of view, and I hopefully for other people listening, but is that with that skill and experience and understanding, and who knows what cool top secret things you've done,
Yeah.
rolling that into whatever we see coming out of Commodore in future, that's going to be exciting. There's that level of cleverness going on there. So yeah,
It's funny to me. It's like everything I do, I somehow ends up being equated to something at some point I've done with Commodore stuff.
yeah,
You know, like when I did the thing with James Cameron's project, I knew exactly what to do to fix the problem. Only
yeah,
because
yeah,
I know exactly what to do to fix a Jiffy DOS, wire harness inside your 64.
yeah,
Because I feel like, oh, we don't want to desolder this thing. We don't have access to a soldering iron at the user group meeting or whatever. But we've got a Bic lighter and we got shrink tubing, so we can fix it by just cutting the shrink tube and wrap
yeah.
it around and do this little method to it.
No, we all end up here for a reason to do something. So
Yeah. So I mean, it's
you're carving your path brilliantly,
Oh,
definitely.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
And we're all
it's been fun.
yeah.
So, okay, so I think that's about my history here about what's going on. Let's see. We have Travis. Is he in here? I can see. Where are you,
Have you
Travis?
shared the link with Travis?
Yeah, he's actually in
Oh,
the
okay.
waiting room.
Sorry.
He's in the waiting room.
Oh, he's already queued up.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm
fantastic.
just letting him in right now.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Shall I jump out then?
Well, whatever. You can stay if you want. I don't care. Okay, so Travis, we're going to ask to unmute and
Oh, I'll jump out, and you guys
okay.
and Travis have a great show. Everybody enjoy the show.
Lee,
Thanks,
we'll see
Lee.
you back. We'll
So
see
We will
you
see you
back.
back
We'll have you on
tomorrow
the
for sure.
we have you on
thanks so much
Skype.
for letting me crash in again this year. Literally.
I will
See
see
you on
Lee
the
tonight
YouTube.
too. Lee's
No.
actually doing this presentation tonight for Bitscape.
Yep. Yes, I
Lovely.
think I'm at 4 a.m. UK time, but it's like 8 p.m. or something, I think,
Hey, you
Yeah.
in
can get a
American
little
time.
cat nap. Get a
Yeah.
So
little
that's
cat
going to be
nap.
awesome.
All
I
right.
can't wait.
Take care, Lee.
Oh,
Bye.
good.
Travis,
Hi.
how
Hey,
are you, man?
Travis.
Good, good. How are you?
Real good.
Travis is
So,
back, second year in a row. Travis, you know what that means. If you come back for a second time, there's no even asking anymore for a third time.
I
right.
just
It's just
better be here
expected.
next year.
It's like osmosis. It just happens.
Yep.
Happy to be here. Happy to be
Yeah,
here.
Gideon knows that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't
Travis,
see
I
him on the
was.
schedule. I assumed he'd be here at some point, though.
Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. So,
Okay.
He'll get covered as well.
yeah.
So
So,
Travis, oh my goodness, it was so funny. I as part of your always being well prepared nature, um, everybody in the community that has been exposed to your product, I will do a quick intro to your product, kind of like get people from ground zero real quick so they can get up to speed. You thought it might be useful to also just send us a quick note of things that have happened since last time we spoke.
Yeah, a
And
few things.
that was, we were like, okay, we probably don't even need to find topics anymore because just going through the list alone will fill up the entire hour, and we're going to have to probably condense here. So it's just super exciting. I think in your wildest dreams you would have not expected your
Not at all.
creation to take off like this and being picked up by so many people, and so many people coming in with great ideas to expand.
Yeah, the community,
It's
the
crazy.
feedback has been incredible.
Yeah.
So many ideas coming at me, and I couldn't have done it without
Yeah.
all of that.
And I really love your Discord. You are super active there. Everybody is like always working together on new things, and it is just You're super approachable. I think that's the big key to your success, and it's just been so much fun. So maybe
It's been a lot of
what
fun.
we'll do is we'll rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit
Let me
about
say something real
yourself.
quick
Tell us
here.
what
You're
you've
about the
created.
Discord. Let me say something real quick with the Discord. So Travis, you know this today, that Travis, he sends us a message today and says, geez, I don't know what I can really do, but I've got all these different things. And originally Travis was like, well, I might be able to do a half hour, I might be able to do something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he sends this list of things. I said, Travis, do you understand? I am on your Discord. And I get notices all the time of what's happening with it. So I know you've got a ton of stuff that you've done. So.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, Jim. What I've started doing, because there's just so much going on, I just go to the news page only, like the channel.
Yep.
This is just too much. It's impossible to keep up with it. So it's
I honestly thought
cool.
it had been kind of a slow year, and I started putting that list together, and
I like
I guess
that.
I have done some stuff.
The level of energy with you and your creations is just crazy. It's fantastic. So Travis, let's rewind a little bit. Give us the two-penny tour of you and what you've created that has taken off so incredibly well.
Oh, well, yeah. Hearing Jim talk about his dad kind of got me thinking about how I happened back into this as well. I had a 25-year break from Commodore stuff from my teen years up to where I am now, and just got back to it after he passed, unfortunately, and he's the one that got me into it. So I kind of wish I could show him what's been happening here, but it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely kept me busy, and like I say, I started off this project thinking, hey, I've been familiar with the Teensy microcontroller module for quite a while, and the developer of that is actually from Oregon as well. And I bet you I could emulate a ROM with that. And so that was my original goal for this project, was to emulate a ROM. And so got that done. It's like, thinks I could probably do some other stuff with this. And like I said, it's been never-ending stream of ideas, and trying to stay focused on a specific feature idea has been challenging, to say the least, and trying to keep track of all the ideas out there. So yeah, I feel like the beginning was kind of the basics: ROM emulation, fast load, the Ethernet interface, some of the MIDI stuff was all wonderful. But now I'm getting to a point where most of the basics are taken care of, and I can try to focus on new areas. And so of the ideas, my method for picking an idea is out of the pool, so to speak, is trying to do something that hasn't been done so much before. And like I say, I realize there's got to be this basic foundation of capability that you expect out of any cartridge like this, because there are multiples, of course.
Right.
But what really attracts me are the ones that are new ideas and new ways of doing things.
Right. Yeah, I think what has been so interesting is exactly that, because you're constantly seeking feedback on what to add, how to add, and then once it's added, how it's being perceived and used, and to basically build upon that, which is kind of like a very cool ecosystem that you've created there, that kind of fine-tunes additions to this cartridge. And it's odd, like it's still called the Teensy ROM, but it's basically called the Teensy everything.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a
right?
limiting name there. Yeah,
exactly.
Not so teensy.
And it's just cool to see how a lot of very creative people have picked this up as well and started using this in a world that far expands beyond the machine itself, which is really cool. I think that's when we opened up today and spoke a little bit about Commodore now being resurrected, getting a ultimate Commodore out to 12,000 people. Let's do something crazy. Let's say a third of those people are people that don't own already a whole bunch of them, like you and I. but are people that are being reintroduced to the machine, that have taken a break from it. All these people are going to start doing new stuff with this, and they're going to say, I wonder if there's something new that someone created, or maybe had an idea when they were a child and start working on this. And it's just cool to see these type of projects coming up, and still new ideas being created on a machine where you thought, like, okay, by now, you know, everything that you could possibly invent for this, that you could hook up on it, and, you know, has been done before. Clearly, that's not the case.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the people are people like us who, you know, had Commodore in our youth and got really into it then, and then got taken away by a career and
Right.
got busy with life for several years, and
Right.
maybe we're getting old enough to slow down and focus on the fun stuff again.
Funny,
Right.
I would say something real quick. The CFO of Commodore was an assembly language programmer for 64.
Right. Okay. That's great.
And before he became the CFO of Paramount Studios and now CFO of Commodore. So you take a break after a while, but he really was an assembly language programmer back in the day.
Yeah,
Right.
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, he's a good example of someone that took a little break and a detour,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you kind of look back on how this started, when you created this, you were initially probably not having a feature list of 50 items that you have right now.
Not at all, no.
Are you if you kind of like look back at that right now, what is the least expected item that you've added so far, that you really, it wasn't on your list, it's now there, but you think like, okay, when I started this, I've lost the bet on this one.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize how well MIDI fit in with the Commodore.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge.
When I had a very early version of the Teensy-ROM, a guy who goes by Digital Man up in Canada, got one, and he's been wonderful. I still keep in contact with him regularly, and he's got a lot of rich history around everything that every kind of Commodore compatible cartridge does.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the original questions and emphasis to look into it came from him. And I think he had an Evo system, which is, you know, real sound centric with the tube amplifier and all.
Yeah.
And started mentioning the MIDI solutions out there that were available already. And so to, you know, leverage that legacy to be able to emulate that, and a little bit differently since it's USB, but a lot of the modern MIDI instruments are USB anyway, so that all fit together pretty well. And same with the Ethernet connectivity. I had an idea in my head about some maybe proprietary kind of stuff, but he's the one that led me in the direction of the SwiftLink, which is the only expansion port historic network, or it was, you know, a phone line interface back then, but and emulating that. So it kind of all came together starting with him, and grew from there. And then of course when the Discord opened, started getting overwhelmed in a good way with ideas and feedback, and the kind of stuff I get now is everything from somebody who has no real history saying, hey, is this possible? And it gets the gears turning, and yeah, maybe we could look at that, all the way to the other extreme, which is people will say, oh, I bet you could do this, and they get down to the, you know, assembly algorithm that's required to do that feature. I've got a good example of that coming up, the SID voice muting, individual voices when you're playing back a SID, came from Abracadabra, one of the people will be on Bitscape or
which is very cool, because these are all features that are not necessarily available, or certainly not in the same way available in any of the other cartridges, let alone combined into a platform where these features together create a completely new experience as well.
So yeah, it's been honestly, I think I got a little lucky picking this particular microcontroller because it does have a lot of memory and flash memory to be able to keep doing these expansions without fear of
And it's fast
losing
too.
out, running out.
Right. It's a very overpowered,
Yeah, it's
solution
super
for
fast.
the initial design of the cartridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't worried about the cost of the module at the beginning because it was just something I was going to play with. But
Right.
and I've gotten that feedback. Oh, can you do this with a Raspberry Pi? And the answer is no, not really. Some of these features do take that amount of processing power.
Right. I think it's good, because in hindsight, maybe the initial setup, you could have used another solution, but there were many solutions already for what the initial product was going to do. You wanted to execute it with a Teensy because you had experience on that platform and you thought it was a neat platform there. Now it works out that thanks to that decision, there's so much that can be done that very few other platforms can offer, and it's found its unique spot in the lineup of cartridges as well, because the Commodore world is a bit of an odd world. All these people that own these machines typically buy everything at least once. Anything that comes on the market, they'll buy, and typically it ends up on the shelf and never being used. And it's a bit odd because it may even sell significant numbers of a product, but yet it doesn't seem to get used at all. In your case, it's got a very loyal and active backing. By the way, Jim, Digital Man is in the Discord. Can't see the channels, and I think all the other members can't either. There's some click mark thing. Take a peek at the panic room.
Okay. Yeah, I will.
These type of people that I love these people, the feature creep people that come up with great ideas and often are very good at creating a compelling case of why it is of vital importance that you consider
exactly, gotta have it.
that you consider these features to be added. It's cool. It's cool to kind of deal with those, but you spoke briefly already of like, how do you deal with that when your creation becomes this popular that this many people are seeking to add features? How do you actually look at that? Because at some point in time, you may have 50 things there. This was a hobby project, and I think you're retired, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
You're retired, so while you have a lot of time, it doesn't need to become a job now.
That's right.
So how do you actually kind of look through these and think like, okay, it needs to be technically feasible. It needs to be something that kind of fits where I want to go with this, and it needs to be something that I feel fun, or what? Tell us a little bit on how you approach this.
Yeah, I started just cataloging all the ideas at first, and I've got I don't know, it's at least 10 or 15 page Word document now of ideas, and I try to keep it somewhat categorized, but it's a combination of definitely what sounds fun, because I'm doing this for fun. I'm not making a lot of money or anything. It's just it's really what I enjoy, writing code and designing hardware. So that's a big factor. Is it fun? And then is it unique? Like I said, although I definitely want to have the basics that you would expect from a cartridge like this, I definitely I am attracted to things that I don't know of having been done before. So I definitely focus on that. And the MIDI, for example, has been a big draw because I'm a huge music fan. I love all genres of music and go to a lot of concerts and whatnot. So that's been a big draw as well, and definitely combines multiple interests. Yeah, of course, feasibility has to play a factor. If it's not possible, then not much I can do there. But I try to think about it. I end up thinking about things for long amount of time before I actually write any code to
Right.
figure out how can I possibly do that.
Right.
So yeah, the tracking of it has been one of the more difficult and time-consuming things, quite honestly, is just because I don't want to lose any ideas. And I've got a firmware release coming out in a week or so here that I've got several new features that were pitched, so to speak, up a year or more ago sometimes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I think people might think, understandably, that I might forget about them because I never come out when somebody gives an idea. I never say, "Yeah, I don't want to do that," because
Right.
you
Right.
never
Right.
know. Even if
Right.
it's not something I'm not super thrilled about, if it's technically possible, it goes on the list because there might come a time that I can spend the time and get back to it and actually do that. So again, trying to keep track
Yeah, and I think it's interesting for people to kind of hear that part of your story as well, because clearly the base design was very well thought through, because you haven't had like a true hardware revision need at all, really. It's not something where you say, if I could just start over all again, other maybe then getting even more powerful or otherwise. But it's proven that the base module has worked out quite well and has supported so far quite a few of the features that came out of inspiration from others combined with your journey, if you will.
Yeah, that's kind of another testament to the Teensy 4.1 is it has a lot of IOs, and I could attach just about every cartridge port signal directly to the Teensy. So it made it very software centric as far as expandability. And so to your point, that means less hardware revisions along the way
Right.
to worry about those kinds of things.
Right. Now, developing for this, you come from a development background, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
For
how
Intel.
is going back in time on a platform that basically has stood still for all that time, and then combining that with something that is like truly the latest and greatest, and even within that quite a high end solution. Teensy is seen as a pretty high end solution, definitely in a bit of a different category than Raspberry Pi, a bit of a different focus as well. How do you kind of combine all of those worlds, and how is it different or the same from kind of like your previous life of software development, whether it's the life cycle or otherwise, approach, architecture, otherwise?
Yeah, most of my career was spent doing board design, electrical design, and I got to do a little bit of software on the side. And
Yeah.
so this project is pretty much the opposite.
Yeah.
The hardware was pretty straightforward to knock out pretty early on, and I've been spending the last couple of years writing software, which is fun for me because it's not just what I did in my professional life.
Right.
It's something a little bit different. As far as the mixing between the two, it's been very interesting because with any project, there's multiple ways to implement any specific feature. And what I've tried to do here is really lean on the fast and deep processing power of it's an ARM processor running at 866 megahertz compared to the 1 megahertz, on the 64 side. So when possible, I try to offload processing information to the Teensy itself so that the work gets offloaded and is much faster. I can, there's 866 clocks that go by on the Teensy before one clock goes by on the Commodore. So there's a lot that can be done in that time. The ACID, the SID streaming is a good example of that. I can do timing and buffering and a whole lot of fast things on the Teensy, and then just feed it to the 64 to the SID chip, and it can keep up with that just fine. But like I say, all the intense processing stuff happens on the Teensy. So yeah, it's been an interesting thing to divide up in any scenario. Some things, of course, has to be done. The user interface and things like that have to be done on the 64, and that's great. I've enjoyed getting back into assembly and doing that part as well. So everything I've written for the 64 side is in assembly, and everything I've written on the Teensy side is in C. So and of course they have to talk to each other along the way. So there's some common interfaces there as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting challenge.
Yeah, and that is an interesting, because it's kind of like thinking of offloading work to an external cartridge. In this case, is obviously something that when the original C64 was designed didn't necessarily help very much. There were some modules obviously that were able to speed up the C64 a little bit. Very expensive. Most people wouldn't have had. I didn't have one. I don't know if you have anything.
No,
like
I still don't.
Exactly. I don't think it will ever happen. But it's interesting to kind of see where this has taken us, and kind of how you can really rethink the capabilities of C64 that way, while still retaining the kind of the look and feel and the spirit of the machine as well. Because obviously you could go as far as just also offloading everything and kind of just doing everything externally, and it just feeds back to the screen, if you will. That's not what you want to do. You really want to still have this be the home computer that everybody kind of enjoys and likes to tinker with.
Right. Yeah, there is the kind of coprocessor capability that I haven't honestly spent a whole lot of time on, but that's a definite possibility as well. Deep math functions and things like that take big tables and whatnot in assembly on the 64 could easily be offloaded. So you could add a basic command to give a sign value, for example. Like I say, mostly math or even some graphics and things like that. So
I wasn't going to try and add. I'm not trying to add to the 10 pages of IDs.
No, go for it. Happy to hear it. Yeah.
So looking at the platform as it stands today, I think one of the things that I've seen is it used to be very strictly C64. You've done a little bit of work to, I think, for Mega 65. There's 128 mode as well. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that came about, and kind of where for you that kind of sits in the spirit of what you're trying to do, both right now and perhaps yes or no in the future, or things that adds to your list, if you will?
Yeah. The 128 stuff has been a little bit limited, quite honestly. I haven't done a whole lot of 128 specific stuff, and a lot of that grows out of my background. I had a PET and a VIC-20 and a 64 when I was a kid, but I never had a 128. So I have one now, and I definitely play with it, but I haven't done a whole lot of things that are very specific to that. Now, the other systems, the Mega 65 and the Reloaded Mark II, I had to, they had slightly different timing requirements. They emulated 64 quite well, but there were some little timing differences that were causing issues. And luckily, they were subsets of what's still legal. So in other words, I could stretch the timing to work on both those systems as an example, and still be within the specification to work on the good old 64. Of course, the Elite 2 and the upcoming Ultimate 64 just works. Just works. As you'd expect. Cycle perfect, timing perfect. Never had any issues with those. So yeah, initially the Mega 65, I had to put a special switch in there to allow users to say they were using it. But then I kind of came to the realization that it's fine to do that on regular 64s as well. So it's no special setup required. So,
required for the use on those as well.
So all the systems I know of so far are compatible.
Are pretty compatible indeed. Now, as far as your own use goes for the cartridge, because obviously on one side you're the developer for this, but you've got a couple of other hobbies as well, very much on the music side of the business. Have you started using your own cartridge like that as well? Because initially this was not part of scope, it was not part of the
Right.
ID or anything. So anything that in this case was brought on as IDs by others have now created a product that actually is useful for your other hobby as well.
For sure, for sure. I read your bio today too, and that you don't play games that much, and I'm the
Right.
same way. I rarely sit down and actually play a game, and if it is, it's probably Space Invaders or something,
Right, the old ones. Yeah, they're
something
very
old.
simple
Yeah.
games. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't use it for gaming so much. I listen to SIDS once in a while. One of the big features that I do use fairly often though is um, the ability to transfer files to it, so I can do cross compiling. I can
Yeah.
compile on a modern computer, immediately send that across, and have it up on the 64.
Yeah.
And the Teensy-ROM UI created by Hex has a real cool feature called a directory watch. So you can set it up to, as soon as you hit compile and it creates the binary, it's and that program's running in the background, the UI,
Mhm.
it sees a change in that directory and immediately transfers it to the 64 and boots it. So I had a user who was using Vice,
Yeah.
so all on the 64, and he showed it side by side. It actually took longer to compile and boot Vice and load the program and
Wow.
view it there than it did to send it across through the
That's
Teensy-ROM
awesome.
and boot on a real 64.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
so-
And can you just imagine the tool chain that you've created here? These developers back in the day had nothing like this.
and
It
all
is
the
like,
development was on the 64 as well.
right,
I just heard Jim talking about designing a
right,
board on the 64. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
right. Can you imagine having to suffer through that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
Can't
that's
imagine.
amazing indeed. Now, how much fun is the project still today?
It's still fun. um, I spend a lot of time not doing real work on it, so doing
Yeah.
social media, et cetera, and that's fine. But the real fun part for me is, of course, the development. So there's
Talk a little bit more about that if you want. Like, the social media is kind of like dealing with the 5 million questions, repeat questions, documentation that never will cover all of the questions that get repeated anyways.
exactly, and
Yeah.
then yeah, the social media, all of that for
Yeah.
sure. And answering questions. There's a help channel, so if people have
Yeah.
questions that aren't documented and stuff, and making sure I keep the documentation up. But what was I going to say? It- there was a okay. So
Development versus social media, kind of where your time is spent and kind of where you'd rather spend the time, if
you're
you will.
right. I'm a pretty quiet, kind of introverted
Yeah.
guy, so I'm kind of putting myself out there more than
right.
I typically would, but I that's fine. Sales was the other thing I was going to
Oh,
mention. There's definitely overhead there, and
yeah.
and managing that, and so it
Yeah.
takes a little time, and that's all fine, and I appreciate all of that. But the real fun stuff for me is writing some code or
Yeah, it's heads,
designing a
down
board
in the
or
code,
something.
which makes sense. And by the way, and I know I've said it last time as well. For someone that's introverted, you're actually a great extrovert in play. So I think that works out just fine. The software side that you now spend the vast majority of your time on, the hardware is done. There's not really anything you need to do at that other than maybe thinking about, if I could fast forward time and I had a lot of time, maybe I'll make this. But and we'll get to that maybe at some point. But the software side, has that been a fun transition? going from a very hardware-focused job to now a very software-focused type of job on a static platform, if you will?
It has. Although my career was in hardware design, I've always loved software. Back from the PET and the VIC-20
Right.
back in my youth. And even at work, I worked a lot with the software engineers to understand their need, and how they needed the hardware to
Right.
perform, and even got to cross the line a few times, when after things got implemented, I'd go back and help the software engineers understand and talk to the hardware. So it's always, I've always had that connection to software and enjoyed it, but I never got to focus on it for a long period of time.
Right.
In my professional life. So I to get back to your
Yeah.
question, I've definitely enjoyed that. I did a lot of hardware design for that 20-something years,
Right.
so I definitely appreciate being able to focus on the software side and learning some new skills. Now, I'm not a professionally trained software developer,
Yeah.
and I know that there are professional developers out there who would probably look at my code saying, your style's not quite up to
Right. Right.
these standards. And they're right. I wasn't classically trained in that way, but I picked up enough along the way in the last 40 whatever years to be proficient enough
Right.
to
Well, I think the other thing that I've noticed, everything is kind of published. You're very good with feedback, and actually, there's a lot of people that if they want to, and if they feel like they could help, or they could say, hey, have you considered this? It's cool for people to kind of that sometimes have hyper focused traits, to be able to say, okay, hey, I can see this, and I could perhaps help you do this in a different way. We just had Lee on. Lee's a long and he'll be interviewed, long career in game development, and sometimes he brings up these concepts, and all of us are like, wait, what are you saying? What are you talking about? And then but that's like someone that has spent ages of time and training on a certain topic that can within minutes perhaps bring you to a next level of learning and understanding things. I think that's fantastic. I think to me a lot of that goes back to how it used to be when the original machine came out. I don't know how it was for you, but we had listings printed on a matrix printer, and we would compete at the schoolyard about correcting lines and debating on the best way to approach, whether it was in BASIC or later in machine language, and
Sure.
kind of go through that, and
even
to me,
typing in
this
the
is
old
a modern
programs
version
from
of that. Right.
yeah, typing in those programs from the Gazette and things like
Right.
that were learning experiences too. Yes, you were wrote copying what was there, but something sticks, when you when you see, you start to understand the way things are implemented and how you do certain features. So, and even with this, even though I've only been on this project a couple of years, I've definitely learned a lot just through this process. And to be completely honest, if there's probably some things within this project that I have learned better ways to do it, and in some cases, if it makes sense, I'll go back and make it better. But on the other hand, if it's something that's working as it is and there's not a real reason to go back and change it just to make it pretty, then I am not necessarily in a big hurry to do that.
How does obviously back in the day, you said you started with the PET, then the VIC-20, then C64, especially the step from the PET to the VIC-20, which was much smaller than the VIC-20 to the 64. That really was a huge step, as in capability and things you could do and the magic, if you will. But it's still a constrained environment. Very much a constrained environment if you became more prolific at optimized code and all of that. Obviously now with your with your Teensy 4.1, that's almost like incomprehensible, difference in everything, in power, in memory, in port, in pins, everything. 866 mega. It's like, does that make you approach things differently as well? Or does it make you? I don't want to try and lead the answer, but the tendency for many people will be, and look at modern coders and look at vibe coding and all of that. It's basically processing power, memory. Everything is gratis, and therefore, whatever you botch together, it will run, and we'll just put some more horsepower on it. Do you restrain yourself at all in this? How do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a good question. A little more on that history. The pet was in junior high. Our school had pets, which I was happy about because that definitely put me on this path. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, Commodore, huh? Okay. And then we were telling Dad about it, and he brought home the VIC-20, and I did maybe a little basic on the pet, but not a whole lot. But then when the VIC-20 came along, I started doing a lot more basic programming, and then the 64 is really started on the assembly type stuff, really. So that's led the path there. As far as the newer technology and whatnot, yeah, it's really just scaled up a lot of the same algorithmic thoughts that went into a basic program. Will still apply. There's still loops and if-thens and, and things like that. So it's been I didn't start learning C until I was probably, I don't know, in my 30s or so. So C was a big learning curve for me. Started with there was a Visual before Visual Studio. I can't remember the name. Started with some of that stuff, and as far as the new techniques, my good friend Hex, who did the TRUI, keeps getting me to, or encouraging me to bring in AI more. And I heard Jim talking about that too. And I'm interested in that. I like that it can bring new ideas or new ways to implement things, but I'm also a little resistive because I really do enjoy thinking about these algorithms and how to develop them. I don't want to call AI cheating because I definitely see the advantage of it. But on the other hand, I also like getting into the low level nuts and bolts and kind of figuring it out for myself. So yeah, I've used some AI stuff to kind of, okay, how would you do this? And
but more as a learning partner than anything else. Then.
Yeah, I certainly have no intention of turning over development, to it, but it's a tool that can definitely be helpful and definitely help with some of the low-level implementations that have been done many times and are well documented elsewhere. It's going to come up with probably the best solution for that. But like I say, sometimes the struggle of figuring it out for yourself is a fun challenge.
Yeah. In that way, it's interesting, because back in the day we had a great manual that came with the C64, and then hopefully you had some mates as well that at schoolyard would be able to help you figure things out. There was no internet. Now we have the internet with lots of wrong answers. For those that know how to seek for them.
I still use
exactly.
Oh,
there
it's
you
backwards,
go.
but I still use that all the time.
That's all you needed, right? If you had that, then you basically, that was the library. And not everybody had that version, by the way. That's
Yeah, this one. A quick advertisement for it. It goes through like every memory location and in depth on what it does. So it's
it's really the Bible. It really is the Bible. That one.
It's been great.
And it's interesting now because now obviously the access to information is much easier. There's a lot of smart people that have created things in the open source as well that you can take a peek at and learn from. It's almost like now too much information to be able to kind of condense it to what you may need at some point in time. Now to that point, and let me do. I'm not on a time check. What are we doing on a time check?
We're fine. We got 20 minutes.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
Yeah, we're good. Did you want to run down all of the changes you've made? I mean, because we had like
we'll get to it in a minute. I still have a few that we want to do. Well, these changes, and the thing is, I know that these changes are just the one, and Travis just said that there's a new firmware coming up, and that will have further changes.
Yeah,
it will double that list. I think the real pitch for people is in any case, the Teensy ROM is the wrong name for a fantastic product.
It's fair.
And you should get one. and even if you have all the other cartridges already, if you hadn't heard of it, you bought every other Commodore product already. You just need this one as well. But not only that, this one is actually one that you'll use, especially if you're into music. It's going to do things that no other cartridge has ever done and combined in such a way. It's got a great community behind it as well. It's got a fantastic creator that is always there, and has a really nice people Discord. Like, I think you really stand out from the crowd there. Everybody is like super cool there. And a great mix of techies and coders and UI people and creative people and people that have always something positive to add. So I think that's all really, really good. That alone should be the reason to get one. Now, Travis, the hardware world is very big. You've got a lot of stuff behind you as well. Tell us a little bit about your vices. Which cartridges have you put to your collection, and have you looked at and thought like, I know I have it already in another form, but this is something I need to own. Which ones are part of your treasured collection?
I'm a fan of Frenetics, the Rad and the Sidekick, taking advantage of the basically taking over the 64 and driving it. The whole Doom simulation thing is pretty cool. The Meatloaf, if you're familiar with that.
Super. The Citizen gang.
Yeah. Well, and Jamie.
Jamie.
Idle Picks, I think, is how you pronounce his last name. So sorry, Jamie, if I got that wrong.
No, you got it right. You got it right. And Jamie couldn't make it this round.
Yeah. Okay. We've actually been working together a little bit. He has a USB port on that as well, where it gets power, and we've been plugging that into the Teensy ROM and communicating kind of a sideband bus behind the scenes there, kind of. So this next release will be able to mount a D64 file that you select on the Teensy ROM onto the Meatloaf and mount it as device 8. So kind of tying the projects together a little bit there. But it's a great project on its own with its internet connection and what he's done through the floppy interface. Quite impressive.
I got to meet him at VCF Midwest. We talked quite a bit.
It's so cool. Everything. The high score module that they added to the games that they've created. It's all super cool ways of who would ever thought we would have these type of solutions. It's just super cool.
Yep. It's funny to think about back in the phone line days and dial-up, how that infrastructure, that interface is still used out of the 64, but connecting to modern networks. And I just heard about the Meshtastic, and and looking forward to picking one of those.
What's funny
up.
is that there's actually a problem with that legacy issue. So there's a lot of file transfer programs, the Z modem in particular. So Z modem is a real problem for wireless type devices, because it has a very fixed, tight timing window on acknowledgement. So you got 50 milliseconds or less. So you could go from here to part of Europe and ping in less than 50 milliseconds, depending on how many switches there were between there. But for us to do that nowadays, because you got to go from your modem to your router. Your router's got to go to the ISP, and then that's got to go back. And so it turns out that old school phone lines are actually still better than our Wi-Fi.
Sure, yeah. That's true. Yep. But it's been made to work. I mean, we're seeing it in action from your wireless device a while ago to
it's
mesh.
interesting. It's interesting to see kind of how all of these projects kind of start getting interconnected as well. Marco and Zarko are going to both be here this year. Marco created the extension with Zarko on the 2 meg Magic Desk version to get that supported. I know that you are now supporting that in your cartridge as well. The menu for that was created by Zarko, and then David created the music module for that. So it's so cool to see how some of these projects people only got introduced to kind of by hearing someone else that created something and say, oh, that's interesting, and now I can hook this up. And I think that makes for a great community as well. And
I love the lack of ego in this community that everybody shares and gives ideas and supports each other and promotes each other. And it's been wonderful.
Very much so. And a lot of creative souls that come up with other ways of using these things as well, because often it's the technical limitations are often gone these days, but ideas on now how can I use this? Okay, so that limitation is gone, but what am I going to do with it now is interesting as well. A lot of people with those type of skills are entering as well and are contributing in their way of making a product better, which I really like. And a lot of it is open source, which is kind of cool as well. I really do. I love open source. I think it has a spot. Just like commercial products have a spot and are very important for the overall ecosystem, I think the open source is a good training ground for people and a good way of kind of like putting yourself out there on your your retro resume, if you will, right?
Yeah. Closed source is almost the exception nowadays. It's most people.
Exactly.
Like, okay, where's your GitHub?
Exactly. So if you look at some of the things that are upcoming, that first of all, because otherwise I'm going to forget the question again. I'm going to be a little bit of devil's advocate. Does your mind ever wander to a new product?
Yeah, and do you mean a retro product or in general?
Or maybe either. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's actually. Oh, now you make me even more curious.
Well,
I've done
it. Jim and I have a lot in common, I think. I've done a lot of different electronic type projects. I mean, most of the bins and stuff you can see behind me here are parts and whatnot. And I love to come up with electrical designs and things like that. And I honestly have not done anything else for the last couple of years, and I do miss that sometimes. Just being able to throw something together on a breadboard and trying it out. But I figure I've got time. I'll get back to it. They're not going anywhere.
Because that's the point as well. At some point in time, you could kind of. Gideon is terrible at this, but for years he's been saying he's at version 3.12a, I think now, and he does point versions. And he's for years been saying, okay, I'm going to feature freeze, I'm going to bug freeze, and I'm just going to not do any of that. And, he fails at that miserably every single time.
I feel that,
You're not planning towards that, your Hawaii vacation day, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it might slow down. If you notice my versioning, I'm at 0.6, 0.6 point something. And so, the thought was when I get to 1.0, that'll be a feature freeze and fixes after that point. But but I'm not there yet.
Not there yet.
It certainly could slow down, and I try to spend time doing other fun things, but it's still drawing and it's still fun, so I'm still at it.
What is the community not doing with your product yet that you're either surprised about or where you hope they're going to pick up? Is there anything where you say like, okay, I wish that the community, or I'm surprised that the community has or has not? Anything that stands out there?
Yeah, the maybe the web browser I put quite a bit of time into, and I can completely understand because it's text-based, that
Right.
that when you can use any modern computer and get all the fancy frills of a web
Right.
browser.
Yeah.
But yeah, no regrets or anything, but
No.
it's been a feature that doesn't seem like has been used quite as often.
Right.
On the other hand, the other kind of extreme, the MIDI stuff has been picked up by a lot of
Yeah.
musicians and whatnot who want to use their C64 as a synthesizer,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
a
I
lot
would
of
argue you've
tools
become the de facto standard there for this.
Yeah.
seem to have.
Yeah. 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 You know, it's interesting what you said about the browser. I had the opportunity to visit AMI West in Sacramento 2 weeks ago, Amiga 40, and there's a couple of solutions there now to browse the web as well. Some software that's loaded up on it as well to allow more modern web pages to semi-render as well. I looked at it. I gotta say, there too, it didn't get a lot of traction, and it wasn't something that people were really dying for. It was more like, oh, it's cool that you can do it, but maybe too many modern convenient solutions for it these days. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. The text-based stuff works well.
Right.
The Chat
Right.
GPT via the 64 is still text-based, but yeah, I usually want the graphics and the nice clickable links and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly like development tools change or getting files into your machine. That's the type of stuff that everyday users it's a huge improvement in way of working life with a machine like this as well. The Mega 65 and the C128. Clarify for us: is that a platform of which users other than the 64 mode should expect much more?
No, honestly.
Okay.
Most of the honestly, I'm trying to think of 128 specific features, and all I can think of is the 128 diag cartridge, which boots in 128 mode.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot specific to 128 mode, so that's mostly 64. And the Mega 65 is all 64 stuff.
All 64.
I haven't even thought about trying to write new cores for it or anything. I really appreciate its ability to do that. I think it's a great idea to be able to write FPGA cores to make it so multifunctional. But yeah, what I've done working with them has mostly been 64
Mostly on that side. Okay.
Yep.
And then if you think about future projects, you have a long list, 10 pages full still of features. Those are more I'm considering more them as thoughts, things that you kind of like simmer there, and some of them you make a recipe, a soup recipe out of, and some of them will just remain still as they are. Are there things that are like sitting in your mind, like, okay, it's here, I want to bring it forward, but it's either it's going to take too much time to get it to that finish line, or it's something that the current design would need that dramatic changes to work properly, that it's probably more something for a future type of product?
Yeah, there's a couple of those. I've been looking a lot lately. I've been learning a lot of new tricks that a lot of the people who've been working with 64s their whole life already know about, but things like kernel vector intercepts. I've not really done much of that, but there's a lot of opportunity there, I think. Plugging a USB keyboard into the Teensy-ROM and being able to use an external keyboard or a wireless keyboard, plugging a printer in, things like that. There's a lot you can do. Full floppy emulation as opposed to just single load D64s. So that's definitely a path I want to go down further as like I say, learn more about that. Greg Naku, the C64OS guy, is does a lot of great writing. He gets deep into the how a lot of these kinds of tricks are done, and been learning a lot by reading what he's been putting out there as well. So as more people do that, it's great. As far as the other area, you were crediting me for not spinning, but I, at some point, to do true DMAs, we'll need to be able to drive the address bus, which is not capability right now with the buffers that I'm using. So, and I want to do that for multiple. There's lots of things that DMAs bring to the table.
Right.
So that's something that may drive a hardware change at some point here.
At some point.
Yeah.
Which is, there's an audience, which is interesting then as well, because the audience you've got today is going to be your customer set, and then anybody else that is going to make use of the features that get opened up as a result of that is going to be your next one as well, which is kind of interesting. Now, to that point, it is an open source project. You've created some of these as well. You've been selling them. I think you're Ko-fi as well, or Ko-fi, kind of where people or Patreon. Are you on Patreon or Ko-fi?
I'm not. I sell on
No, you sell on. Sorry.
Tindy. Couldn't think of it there.
On Tindy, you sell on Tindy. How can people support you? How can they support you? What's the best? What is helpful to you?
Oh, just the feedback I appreciate. I don't like to ask for donations or anything like that, because I'm doing this for fun, and sometimes with that kind of thing there comes expectations with it, and not that I would expect that, but I want to feel like I'm doing this a lot for myself and my own fun, and not owing specifically. I mean, I enjoy it, so that's why I do it. I'm not I don't want to feel that I'm on the hook to provide a specific feature because someone compensated me in some way.
Right. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, you might as well go back to work if you wanted that.
Right. Exactly.
So the new firmware release that you're gearing up to, is that typically now, compared to earlier versions, much less of a nail biter event, so to say? Because you have a much larger community now. Some of them very technically apt, if you will.
Yeah, it is a little. Every release gets a little more scary, so to speak, for a couple of reasons. One is, the perception. I don't want to brick people's TC-ROM or anything like that. So making sure I've got good beta testing, et cetera, done. But the other part of it is that the code base has become so big that I want to make sure that I'm not breaking anything, and there's a lot of features to go retroactively test.
Regression testing.
Exactly. So end up spending a more time certainly than before before I can pull the trigger and do a release.
I think that's one of the downsides of the environment that you develop for. Obviously, automated testing and all that. There's a beautiful world that exists today that, for this environment is much more limited.
I think about Digital Man, as I was speaking about earlier at the beginning. It was kind of just him and me, just kind of passing things back and forth. And if I mess something up, no big deal, fix it and you can go from there. But now it's kind of taken on a life of its own. So be more careful.
It's quite a broad feature set indeed that you're trying to cover.
So we only have a few minutes left before we have to switch over to Bitscape. But I have got one question for you that's been burning in my mind since you popped on here. What's the story with the purple and yellow keycap?
Those are your keycaps there, bud. You can see that.
That's a Yuri color right there, man.
Totally.
Well,
I'm
purple.
I wouldn't even ask the question. I would expect that. I love the color of the cartridge as it is. I think that alone is a reason for people to buy.
Yeah, it's funny. Purple's always, it's been a theme of the TC-ROM, honestly. I've always, it's been my favorite color pretty
Yeah,
much
it's a happy color.
forever. But then there's a local PCB fab here in Oregon called Osh Park. They've
Yeah,
actually
I know
become kind of
them.
national now,
Yeah.
and they do purple PCBs.
Purple,
And
yeah.
I knew that guy from local clubs and whatnot. Lane is his name, and he. All of his PCBs are purple, and of course the prototypes I did of the Teensy ROM were purple. And
Purple, yeah.
when I went to volume production, it's like I want to stick with that. You know,
Right,
I like
right.
purple,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the boards became purple, and it's been catching on when things. So the cases that I sell are purple.
Purple.
Yeah.
Nice.
A friend made this is a mini one that's actually an NFC reader in
Oh,
here
wow.
that it looks like a mini teensy ROM, but anyway,
Right.
it's purple as well.
Sure.
That's
So
awesome.
so yeah, and going down this path when the campaign came out for the colored bread bins, I definitely had to. I actually got a purple and a clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yellow seemed like the right accent for
Yeah, I agree.
that.
Yellow
So
or maybe that green one, that would be good too. But, you know,
I
there
thought
aren't too
about
many of
that,
those.
but
I don't know if that was a Yuri exclusive color though. I don't know if that was only added later, Jim.
Oh yeah,
Those
maybe.
neon green keys.
neon
Yeah.
green, yeah. I
Yeah.
actually wanted to buy them. I only got that, it's been a few months ago that campaign followed
Yeah.
through, and
Yeah.
I didn't think about it much ahead of time. And I went on to your site, Jim, and went to order some keycaps, and it's like, oh, I can't get those,
Yeah.
but I'm
Well,
really
you know,
lucky. A fan on the
we'll have
Discord.
more, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
it's still coming.
yeah,
I read
Yeah.
your update yesterday. Thank you
yeah,
for
we'll be
all the
yeah,
details.
at least things are in production, so that's good news. So
Good, good.
all right, so we
All
got to
the
get out of here. We got to get
Yep,
over to
we're gonna go.
Bitscape. We got to put up
All
some
right.
stuff. Travis,
Travis,
thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you
You
guys
remember
very
the
much.
second time here means the third time is an automatic.
Yeah,
Looking
sometimes the
forward to it.
charm.
Sounds good.
And then in your room, we need to put your information about where to go get on the Tindy store to get
Yeah.
one, your
Ah,
GitHub, and all that stuff. So do
I'll
that.
do that. Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Thank you,
alrighty,
thank
we're
you,
gonna get out of
Travis.
here. We'll put up
Thank you guys so
a
much. I appreciate it.
take care. We're gonna
You
put
too.
up a flyer basically for Bitscape, and we're gonna keep the stream going so people can click on or actually use a QR code for the link to get to Bitscape. So Bitscape is starting right now, and I will get out of here and put this flyer up.